Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
I mean, I first saw it when Alex Jones did a report on it, and then it started going everywhere. And who I wasn't hearing from was people like Mark Young, George Howard, Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock, Ben from Uncharted X. And then we heard from Ben. We'll get to his tweet later. People were asking me, and I'm like, I didn't know ground penetrating radar could go down that far. They said kilometers.
Well, that was a misconception.
Yeah.
It wasn't about it being 2 kilometers down. It's that there was, well, supposedly, right? They were claiming that there was 2 kilometers of tunnels, and like it would have been that much stuff that went on for 2 kilometers. It wasn't. They weren't saying that it was 2 kilometers under the ground. I think that just got lost in a game of internet telephone. That people suddenly started saying that, and that wasn't actually the case of what they were saying. So.
But yeah, when I was asked, the only thing I know, and I don't know for a fact because I haven't been there, and I could have been there if it wasn't for Snow White. There's a cave system. I said tunnels at the time, but there's caves. Mark, the guy to ask about this, for one, let's look at their interpretation, because we have the scans. Is that the original scan? That's one of them.
This is one of the scans. This is of the pyramid. So this is at the base of the pyramid. This is where they get the columns, right? You could see that there's clearly columns shaped objects.
Yep.
You could kind of see that there's a little bit of spiraling going on. Like if you look right in the very middle, a little to the left, you can almost see that there's like a spiraling going on, but not really defined. This image is where they've made their 3D mock-ups that you kind of saw, and it's really ridiculous. There are too many people that are just jumping to conclusions, and it's kind of irresponsible. I mean, Alex Jones did a report on it, and then I don't know if you saw that he immediately, or I don't know exactly how long it took him to do this, but then he kind of made fun of himself by posting, he retweeted his report with the picture of the pyramids that go down forever.
Oh, you mean the meme where the obelisk and the pyramids are just
top of the obelisk
of a giant obelisk.
I feel like he jumped the gun by having Jay on, who has been pretty much at the forefront. Jay Anderson, who kind of has been just like pumping it out and saying like the critics are all wrong. It's absolutely true. It's proven. And it's like, dude, you can't say this. Like nothing's proven. Nothing's true. Like it's this new technology that is fascinating. Sure. 100%. Like what is that? We don't know what that is.
And the hard part about it, if it is tomographic images, this is just a slice of it. So as much as it can look cylindrical, it could also just be flat surfaces. And unless we get the slices where we can like flip through them,
connect them 3D,
we won't know if it actually is cylindrical or just straight.
Mark, I want to hear from you.
I want to hear from Mark. Mark will be the man. He'll be the final word on this.
Well, first, Mark, you said your area of expertise is what again?
It's not quite my area of expertise, but I was trained in archaeological geophysics. My PhD supervisor is one of the top experts in Australia on archaeological geophysics. And I would just say straight off the bat that geophysical data can only be reliably used for prospection to identify anomalies that need further investigation using other methods like excavation. And it should only be used to claim that you've made a discovery, and it definitely can't be used to produce 3D renderings in the detail that the authors have. The resolution of the data is too low to justify the detail in the 3D rendering as far as I'm concerned, especially with the finer details around the spirals around the shaft. You see down the bottom in the black and the red there.
Yeah.
You might have seen the images where those vertical structures meet at like flat cubes.
Yeah.
And we're certainly not seeing that there.
Yeah, there's nothing flat there.
And so rather than a flat bottom like they've interpreted, it undulates like this, and it kind of rides up the bottom of the structures rather than being a clean 90 degree. And so it strikes me as odd that they chose to render these much larger discrepancies down the bottom, or they essentially prune large chunks of the data to fit their rendering. But in the case of the spirals along the vertical structures, they're much smaller anomalies, and they've essentially added chunks of data to fit that interpretation. Like, to me, that middle there, where it's lines all the way down, that is just noise to me. Like right in the middle is where the structure would be, and the either side of it is just echoes kind of through the ground.
So more like, yeah, exactly that one right there that you're hovering over it. Like that looks more like it could be a column or some sort of pillar.
Yep.
Because it's much darker, so I can see that. Yeah.
And so while the vertical structures themselves are almost certainly there, there's no way of knowing whether they're hollow or just solid rock of a different type without further investigation. Like they could be shafts, but they could just be volcanic, columns, like intrusions through the earth. So either way, they've certainly discovered something. They can't claim anything like what they've rendered.
Well, I know there's something underneath the pyramids. Jimmy was just on, he was on a few different things. I actually don't remember if it was on Rogan or Beale, where he said that when he was in Egypt last, there was a doorway that I believe Zahi Was was like, oh yeah, that goes to a whole nother thing. No one's ever been down there before. Well, first
they
off,
certainly
bullshit.
have. Zahi certainly has.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, for sure.
Sure, no one's been
Come
down
on.
there. All right. Yeah, okay. So you've been down there, but what's down there and how far down does it go? This goes back to the pyramid code, which is like decades old now.
Still need to watch it. I think it's
to Awan's father, right? Ben's friend, who is, OG historian in Egypt. He was saying when he was a kid, he would play down in the tunnels below the pyramids. So, like, I know that there's things underground that we aren't aware of.
Yeah, Megalithomania just did a video on this too, but Hugh has like they've been down there. They've been down in the caves, and it's just caves. It's a natural cave system, but there is access to other tombs that might be around that natural cave system that goes to the second pyramid, I guess. Yeah, this is a Rorschach test. You can see there's lines of something here. I have a theory of what this is, guys, and I think you know where I'm going with this, and I think I'm fucking right. Okay, it's Moria. Okay, it's fucking Moria. It's obvious if you look at that scan.
I like it.
It's the pillars of Moria.
All right, one for one mirror image.
Absolutely. I mean,
if you overlaid it, I'm telling you. I could see it.
It looks more like the Pillars of Moria than that shit that they came up.
The Twitter archaeologists like Flint Dribble, who are claiming definitively that there's nothing there, they're overstepping just as much as the original authors because there's clearly something there.
Yes, there is.
I'm actually encouraged by the fact that after taking a critical look at the data and the claims of the authors, many people in the alternative sphere are being cautious with the claims and they're kind of ridiculing it a little bit. I think this is the right way to treat them. Anyone peddling in absolutes in either direction is just grifting.
Facts.
Claims that the 3D renders are completely accurate are wishful thinking, obviously, and claims that they're nothing, just as wishful.
I think it's fantastic. We're seeing a return to form when it comes to the scientific method, which is, hey, there's something. Let's analyze. Let's keep testing, and nothing is absolute because the science is always about continuing to ask questions and experiment until we get to the thing that can be reproduced multiple times.
And another layer on top of this, the method they're using is the first use of this method.
Correct.
They've combined two different methods, and they're using brand new software to interpret that data. And I mean, I've seen firsthand that the software is very important in the interpretation of data. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying this could be revolutionary. But the fact that it's new also adds another layer of doubt to it. And so the paper they published in 2022, it acts as somewhat of a proof of concept of this technology. They used the same methods to map the internals of Khufu's pyramid quite accurately. And they identified all of the known structures within it there. But there's a bit of a difference between a pyramid above ground because you've got a full 360-degree side view of it.
True. Versus
structures under the ground, which you don't have side views of. So Yeah, I mean, some of the images in here are quite compelling. They've matched the internal structures and they've picked them up no problem. But as I said, they've got a full view around the side of the pyramid too. It's not just straight down. So it is a little bit dubious, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's definitely something there. We just have no way of knowing what it is without further investigation using other methods.
It could be flat. I mean, like a foundation, something else. I have no idea. Hopefully this technology, Mark, gets much better. That's what we want. We want to encourage this technology because, for one, it'll make stuff cheaper. Of course, at first it'll be freaking millions of dollars to use, and then eventually it'll go down to something reasonable to where you could
it
scan.
Actually shouldn't be too bad because they're only using data that's out there in the public. They're not obtaining their own data. They're using satellite data and they're using seismic data, which is out there already. They just download it and reinterpret it.
There you go.
It should be quite cheap. But if they were to use it to reconstruct known underground structures like World War II bunkers and stuff like that are quite far in the ground, and they got good results from it, then that's a good way of reinforcing their interpretations.
Yeah. And now I'm kind of thinking that maybe the ground causes more noise because depending on how they use this technology, I haven't actually looked at it. The pyramid is just right there. They don't have to travel through so much whatever's in between. So it's kind of interesting.
The rock there is like sandstone or limestone, so it's not very dense compared to other types of rock like volcanic rocks. So it should be easier to look through with their seismic data. And I mean, so for example, seismic data is used to map the internals of the planet. Like that's how they know there's a core in the center and stuff like this because of P waves and S waves that are generated during earthquakes. So they measure these waves and they can determine the density of the rock that it travels through, which is how they can discern these different structures. They're obviously different densities. And it's gotten pretty advanced in the last 5-10 years. You might have heard an article a few years back about how there's like a giant snake of iron in the core. And so that's the kind of technology they use to pick that up. But and so compared to the internals of the Earth, this is quite shallow. Certainly aspects of it that are believable.
It's only going to get better, as you said. And again, we want to encourage it and like get this one right. And then once it gets better, we can go look at other things, like find that labyrinth, the entire Sahara, see what the hell's under the sand, which,
great point.
That would
that's a good application of this because it would see, if it sees through rock, it'll see through sand much easier. So
true.
Theoretically, you should be able to map the basement of the Sahara where it turns from sand to rock, and you'd find a lot of things.
Oh man,
that'd be crazy. And someday somebody will do it, and it'll just be funding. But like you said, it's just we're funding people collecting data, which is a lot easier than a brand new machine or something that you have to fly or drone or whatever.
Give it to the internet autists; they'll have a blast.
They'll figure it out.